Now that is what I need.
I don't want this one. My bones are too weak.
You'll be fine. Just keep your arms close and tuck your knees. Like this.
No thanks.
All right.
Whoa.
I know. I love the back rooms. Yeah.
I want to play that. Whatever that is, I want to go down that slide.
Well, yeah, try not to get eaten or something.
Yeah, I don't know what those bird looking things were on the slopes. That was a little scary.
Monsters.
Yeah, don't want that part.
Yeah, yeah. I hear monsters are unfun, but I chose that. I don't know. I like having little intros. We have a new outro this week that we'll play at the end of the stream. But for the
We do.
intros, I thought it was like kind of apropos. Today we're doing Hans Wormhat, and it kind of feels like you're mentally going into the back rooms, which is just like kind of filled with despair, and that you're never getting out, and you're just kind of suffocating a little
Mm.
bit. Because you can't find the out. It's like the stupidity is palpable. So yeah, you're in for a whole treat tonight.
It's going to be a wild ride, just like that. I'm going to put my hands in the
It's
air
going to
and
be a wild,
just
exactly.
go through
It's going to be
the
a
roller
wild
coaster of
ride.
emotions.
But Ryan, I usually have people. We'll do a full like intro at the end, but I usually have people introduce themselves at the beginning of the stream just briefly, and then you can talk more a little bit afterwards. But if you can tell them who you are, your channel, and what you do on it.
Sure. So I am Rion Cultastic, which is just a pseudonym for me because I am a former Jehovah's Witness. And once I woke up, I decided I wanted to enlighten other people what it's like to grow up inside a cult. I decided to start to do research to understand, is what they were teaching me truth? Come to find out, it's all lies. It's just made up on the whim. And I experienced a lot of pain that I think could have been, it didn't have to happen. So if I can help other people to come to see that religion doesn't have to be a bad thing, but there are harmful practices that children should be protected from, they shouldn't have to go through. Maybe we can stop other people from joining. I don't know that I can save people and pull them out, but maybe my story can stop other people from opening the door and listening to a message that sounds good, but is in actuality harmful. So that's what I do. I make content, and right here on the old YouTubes and the TikToks.
Oh yeah, I've been seeing your TikToks. There, is it at Ryan Cultastic on TikTok too?
No, I have like so many. I have so many different names. So on TikTok, it is tax the churches or a sandwich.
Okay, yeah. Send me the one that you make. Well, either one that you make content that you would like people to see, and I'll make sure that I have your YouTube in the box, but I'll get your what do you call it? Your TikToks in the box too, for anyone who loves you as much as we do and wants to follow you and all the things.
Awesome. I certainly will. Thank you.
Awesome. So we're All right,
Fantastic.
Doc. What do we
Yeah.
have
Okay.
tonight?
Well, hold on. But before we do that, I just want to know that there was some concern about my volume, chat. So
Oh, yeah. Let us know if you can hear
let
him.
us know if you guys can hear me, because if not, I can start switching between some different channels and see if that helps. Tonight we have Hans Wormhat. Hans Wormhat is a treasure of internet incredulity. This is a person who thinks that real animals are fake. Like, we got Roger, who thinks that fake animals are real, and we got Hans Wormhat over here, who thinks that real animals are fake. And yes, I stole that entirely from Danielle Gable earlier in the chat. Full disclosure. And it's gonna be, I mean, giving Hans Wormhat more sort of introduction and elucidation than that, I think gives him too much credit. I'm gonna switch my channel here.
Yeah, people are saying that.
See if this works. Yep.
Seeing that
See
it's slow.
Is this better? Testing. But Hans is a treasure. We all love Hans. And yeah. I try, Ancher. I bought a thing for it, and normally all of my tricks that I tried today would work. But
I know you have that fancy schmancy microphone, and
Scientists hate
I mean,
these two
it's a
physical
10 it's a-
laws.
and
Why are
with
you- why
this,
is it
make
playing?
sure that it's up all the way, and we may need subtitles because like his
Oh, right.
videos were super low for me too.
Oh, I wonder if that's going to be a problem.
What do you mean?
Because I mean, right now it's up as high as it'll go.
Okay, no, that's fine. Like I said,
And
his is
before
really
I get into
Yeah.
the laws, I just have some notes to read. And one of the biggest things that you need to overcome if you're going to really start to seek truth and figure out this place and get past the deception is you need to stop worshiping the authority figure and taking all of your knowledge from authority figures. And you really
can
see
you
this happen with
put on the subtitles?
Yes, sorry. Good idea. Let me change the opacity here. Hold on. Subtitles. Options. Background opacity.
religion too. People have this mindset that they have to go through somebody to get to God, and that's incorrect, and it actually goes against what the Bible tells you. We all can go straight to God through Jesus.
So I don't remember the Bible saying that. I actually do remember God always having well, at least in the OT, there was always a prophet or like Moses or like one person that God talked to. And it's like, yeah, you're my secretary. Go tell everybody else what I said. And then I'm going to hold you personally accountable if they don't believe you.
Do I hear like what is that sound?
What sound?
Is
feel
it
like
happening
you're
right now?
Oh, you sound better.
Wow, now you're really loud.
Okay, well.
All right, is he too loud, chat?
How about now? Did I suddenly get way quieter?
No, not way quieter.
No? Okay. Well. I mean, I can always move the mic away. Is that better?
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Okay. So, see, it's always good to just get this out of the way at the beginning, because otherwise people are like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Are you hearing background noise from me now?
It might be a fan or something. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
That's good. You want to scare everybody away at the very beginning of the stream.
It just adds to the
You only need to
atmosphere.
go to a pastor, and then through the pastor to Jesus. And
Oh, wait. Yeah, we were talking about this.
Yes.
Like, Ryan, you're the OT guru here. Is there a part of the Bible I'm missing where, I mean, I understand we're supposed to pray, but I don't remember anything saying you can go directly to God.
I do agree with you that the Bible portrays it, speaking from what the Bible says, it does portray it as like there's a messenger. You kind of have to go through, like God's going to speak through that particular person. He's going to whisper in that person's ear. When it's always going to be a dude, of course, you know.
Of course, of
Um,
course.
Now, I personally believe that you don't need any of that. I agree with him. You don't. You can
Well,
go
you
to
believe you
God.
can go to God just by yourself?
Yeah, I don't think you need a
A
gatekeeper
date
to
or
to
gate?
get
Okay.
exactly. If there's a God, you don't need to go through a gate. F that.
Well, I was raised Catholic. We had to go through a priest who
Right.
could talk to God for us,
Mm-hmm.
which was nice because the Pope is the head holy guy, and he's the one that gets direct God orders, like just beamed into a skull.
Exactly. It's that like Holy Spirit. It's like a text, like a SMS. It's just kind of like
Right,
instant.
right. It's
Doo-doo-doo,
like a God download.
doo-doo-doo.
You know?
Exactly. Is that what people mean when they're talking about like fifth dimension and of receiving downloads? Is that maybe that's what it
Actually,
is?
yes. I spent a little bit of time in the New Age community too. Yeah, and they likened it to um, like downloading a file onto a computer,
Mm-hmm.
and they not which is why they call them downloads.
Mm-hmm. Just like that push notification. Boop,
Yeah,
boop.
yeah. But which apparently is also what I guess happens to the Pope, or maybe I don't know. Uh, God speaks to the Pope through a burning bush. I'm not really sure how that actually happens.
It might be like at the what's it called when Paul was in the upper room and he was speaking, and all of a sudden the light came down, the Holy Spirit, and there was like flames above their heads.
Oh
Pentecost, is that
yeah,
Pentecost
I
33
believe
CE or something? I
so.
forget.
Yeah, but it was supposed to be the flame of the Holy Spirit and like just
Mm-hmm.
constantly like beaming heaven into the skull. If
Yeah.
there's anybody out there who wants to add anything, let us know. But oh, and chat is saying sound is better.
Oh, but it's because you muted.
I
Yeah,
muted myself.
that's why. Oh.
Would you like to say anything about God magic?
Well, so my religion is the Big Bang Theory. I learned that recently through a very enlightening discussion. I'm teasing Daryl, by the way. Heart, I love you. But yeah, what I'm interested to know is if the what on earth everything he just said has anything to do with what is on the screen.
Um. Well, it's Hans, so he has to get Jesus in there somewhere.
Because
Yeah.
he said that we need to stop listening to authority figures, and I
Oh,
think
right.
he's
Yeah.
somehow
Okay.
inferring the
So trying to diss
church
the church. He's
might be
got
in on
interesting
this
views.
as well.
Hmm.
Right.
Well,
There were
he's
some
about to
things I was
start.
like, yeah, okay, I can agree with that, but then he was like going,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
but when he
we'll get
talks
to
about
that. But
authority figures, he means like everyone who, all experts in their respective fields.
oh god, so he's not. No, he's
Yeah.
not talking about who I'm talking about. Okay.
Um, I'm not sure exactly who's talking about, but I'm pretty sure it's not clergy.
Yeah, he's probably talking about science or something.
But I don't know. It might be a jab against the Catholic Church. I don't know. I know Protestants love to do that. Like you don't have to go through a priest, but I think it's more of a jab towards big science.
Mm, probably. Oh, you're muted.
You're still muted.
I was just pointing out that science is a myth, truth is a lie, and facts aren't real.
All right.
There we go.
Let's see if he tells us who he's
You
talking
got
about.
it all right.
It doesn't matter what you call these people. We don't need a middleman on Earth. And it's the same thing for learning knowledge and truth about this place. You don't need a middleman. You don't need to seek somebody else to tell you truths about this place. Truth is self-evident. And
So yeah, truth. That was one kind of where I was talking about, where he's like, you don't need anybody to tell you anything because truth is self-evident. You should be able to just like look up in the sky and tell how the stars work, because God made all of this for us, and so it should just be intuitive how things work.
Oh, does that go for like operations and stuff? Can I just start like
Yeah, yeah. Somebody's having a brain aneurysm. You should be able to like just crack open the skull like a nut, cut the aneurysm out, tie it back up like a knot. There you go,
right.
sport. You're welcome.
On your way, pat him on the butt.
You know.
Skedaddle. You're healed.
It is definitely the case that, like, this came up in a conversation I had with somebody recently, who was emphasizing that you should let the data alone be the motivating thing, be the thing that guides you in your own. And maybe they would not agree with how I'm characterizing this. That I acknowledge that, but I'm doing the best that I can. That you should let data alone be the thing that guides you towards all of your conclusions. And I'm not a genius. Most people out there are not geniuses. The people who are able to look at all of the data and come to a really good, reliable, sort of true, sophisticated, quantitative, detailed model of how reality works, they're not just rare, they don't exist. People like Einstein and Newton, in my opinion, are like the closest that you get to something like that. And they did, what they did was amazing, but still fundamentally incremental progress.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, but I like anyone who is interested in the data, because I don't think that Hans is interested in that data. The truth
No.
should be self-evident, is what he's saying, and we don't. When we're left to our own devices, we think the Earth is flat and there's a hammered-out dome in the sky that keeps the waters from above from the waters from below.
Right.
And I'm not knocking them. It's great a guess as any. When you haven't given yourself the tools to be able to observe your environment. But once that thought has permeated the zeitgeist, I think you owe it to humanity to step it the fuck up.
Right. Right. Start asking some deeper questions.
Right.
And not just show me a picture and zooming in on a picture and saying, see how you see. That's not evidence. That's not self-evident to me. You need to ask a few more questions.
Exactly.
His mind's made up.
Yeah, yeah. This is going to be a lot of someone starting with a conclusion and rearranging the facts to match it.
Right.
Somebody doesn't have to argue for it. You either find it or you don't. And
Yeah.
so one thing, people worship authority figures and experts, and people have this mindset that if you're not an expert on a subject, then your opinion on that subject doesn't count.
I need your opinion on that, expert.
It's this was something I was talking about in with y'all right before the show started, and I genuinely try not to give that vibe, and I clearly fail at it because I've had conversations with a number of people and I've received the feedback that I do give the vibe, even when I'm really quite confident that I haven't said anything to that effect. people get the vibe that their opinion doesn't count because they're not an expert. It's more like it has been and remains a pretty reliable heuristic that people who don't have the demonstrated background, like sort of on paper credentials, they don't tend to be as aware and as knowledgeable and know that that their opinions are similar, they're very close to, and they understand a lot more than maybe a layperson would, but that there are details that they're going to miss. And I come across as arrogant, and I don't like that about myself. But I also know that being defensive about it doesn't tend to help.
No, it doesn't.
So I
no,
try
I
and just
mean,
apologize and move on is how I try and sort of deal with it.
yeah, I mean, if somebody is saying that to you, my again, HR lady, perception is reality. So that is how they perceive you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And, when you move forward, you have to understand that about your that aspect of your relationship. But I've seen that Dr. Josh have to navigate that critique quite often.
He's better
And
at it than me. He's much better at it than me.
I think
I
he's
think.
used to it.
Yeah,
He's come a long way.
he's much more trained. Like,
Right. And now, like when like people say he's being smug, and it's because he's just like, oh, you're trolling me, and so it's just kind of like this kind of glib, it's like, yeah, okay, buddy, and they're like, oh, you're smug, but like I find that a lot, and I'm not
I'm
saying that
trying not
about
to
the
be.
person that you're talking
Yeah.
about, but in general, just to help you, that is when people are saying that you seem smug or haughty, that it's partially due to their insecurity.
I
Um,
said that.
okay, I'm sorry. I've been talking a lot. You go ahead, Ryan.
No, no, no. He had mentioned backstage
Hmm.
that we were discussing. He tries not to come off it in any sort of manner like arrogant whatsoever, and I was like, it's probably just because they've realized they've come up against somebody and an opponent in an
Yes,
argument
somebody that's
that they
knowledgeable,
actually
and it's
right.
intimidating.
Right, and because like if you asked me a question about a certain god, I could probably just rattle off a bunch of stuff. I
Hmm.
might sound like a know-it-all. I'm not. I just have a box of information that I can give to you, just like the Dr. Tapioca Weasel just has a box of information he can just
Right.
plop on down, and to somebody else it's like intimidating, and you know just personally
Or
growing up in a call.
dismissive.
Right. True,
But
that's maybe
which is
true.
they I think what you're saying is that they characterize it as dismissive because, well, because frankly, a lot of the time people have been dismissed.
Yeah.
I think it's true.
Yeah, I
It,
Yeah.
I get dismissed a lot. So yes, that is very true.
yeah. I mean,
I mean, and it
I
depends on what's going on. Like, I like what Brian Stevens says here, and I don't want to bypass that because we've well, experts are trash in their field. I think here we come across experts who are great in their field, but then like kind of cross over and are kind of trash in other fields, which is to be expected. You're an expert in your field, which is like
and my
when
subfield
right, right.
even.
Even yeah, like even me, I just have a master's degree, and I'm like, no, I am behavioral psychology. What you're talking about is abnormal psychology. I'm not going to talk on addicts, or I'm not going to talk on children. I'm not going to talk on elderly. Like these are all groups where you really need a specialization over there. But then I'm also not clinical, and I'm not, what do you call it, like cognitive. I'm behavioral. So I mean, and a lot of people, they think, well, a physicist is a physicist is a physicist. Same with psychology. And I'm like, yeah, but there's just so much nuance in every field. And it is intimidating. Like when you know your field um, really well and you become very much aware of your limitations outside of it. But
Yeah.
when you know your field really well, like you're like, I mean, it's really easy to get down, like, no, you're wrong, and to double down on that because you're an expert in your field. Like you just are wrong. And I think that I know it can seem intimidating to some people, and it can also seem, I don't know, smug or whatever, because that's the perception. They're thinking that you're like them. And muted.
So thank you. Sorry. Is the background noise better? I've noticed that it looks like the little microphone thing. Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think it's a little better now.
I have. So I had a conversation. We had a conversation on the channel, on Maya's channel here last night with Gerald Frost, and like there's no point in like dancing around it. I don't think he's intimidated though.
No.
I don't think so.
And that's why I said I'm not talking about.
Yeah. I just wanted to put that out there because I know that Daryl it was in the chat like 2 minutes ago at least, and probably still is. And so I want to like put that out, like no. And we spent, or at least I spent like 4 hours today talking with him. God. On Discord about a very specific thing that didn't even come up in yesterday's talk, and I realized that I was actually misunderstanding a facet of his argument at a certain point, and I, like it was it's not but it was reiterated that I came across as arrogant. I didn't like that.
Arrogant, thank you. That's what I was thinking. I was trying to think. But yeah, I mean, I know this is kind of on your mind, and I wanted to kind of let you have that outlet. But as far as like, I think Leo is a really great example of not being able to talk knowledgeably on a subject that you're not officially trained on. Like it can be done. Like you can just read and remember stuff like that. That's totally
Leo's
possible.
pretty good. Leo's pretty good.
But I think I want people to understand though that there's a lot of nuances that you can't pick up just in reading something. Yeah.
Unless you're brilliant.
I don't even know how. Like a lot of the stuff that like I remember reading a lot of stuff, especially to get my master's, and saying like just giving a general layman's perspective on it. And they were like, no, okay, here's what you have to understand. And then they're pulling in other studies and, because of this, then that. And this is why we have the consensus. And a lot of these things are hidden behind paywalls. And the general public just doesn't, sadly, have access to it. I think it's really good to read as much as you can. But you also have to speak to people in the field because you're just reading on something, you're losing a lot of the nuance. And a lot of times things are either one, being combined that you're not privy to, or two, that you wouldn't necessarily think to connect to one another just because you don't have that scholar leading the direction.
There's a commonality of vocabulary.
Yeah.
That is particularly useful when you're talking about sort of fairly mature fields of study, and it really can be that. And because very often the disagreements are semantic, and I try not to get stuck in that. And like, it's one of the reasons if somebody wants to revise their position or revise their statement about their position, either of those are similar but different. I'm like always on board for that, because I'm like, I don't want to keep on asserting that your position is this, and if it's not, and you're trying to tell me that and I'm not getting it, like, maybe I'm missing something and you have to phrase it in a slightly different way, but because you're not a mind reader, that hasn't happened yet. And it happened in conversation today, when I suddenly realized, oh, okay, when they say that there is a gradient in this quantity, they mean this quantity, and I was thinking that they meant this very similar and related quantity, and they're not the same. Yeah. But
Yeah.
All right, we've gotten a minute and 40 seconds in.
We're not finishing this video today.
That's not happening.
I do want to. There's a lot of misinformation and that he's getting into, like, that I hear a lot, like, just because I have to scroll through so many videos like this, and they bother the shit out of me. So I really do want to be pedantic about why it's important to trust people who spent their lives studying a thing. And that's not to say, like, to be dogmatic about it, but to understand your position of it's important to understand, like, your limitations with in a position. That's all I'm saying.
And that's clearly a logical fallacy, and it's an appeal to authority, and it's an appeal.
What you just said is a logical fallacy, Maya. Sorry, it's so perfectly.
Yeah, it's a perfect appeal to authority. Yeah, trust people who've studied the shit out of this and actually implement it into their daily lives. Clearly appealing to authority there. And it's not like just trust. If you find, I think it's great if you find something fascinating, you want to get into it, and there's something that seems counterintuitive, to go to an expert and ask them why. You're not going to be lockstep with everything on everyone. I mean, the scientists aren't always. There's, like, competing theories, and a lot of, for a lot of the things that we think are dogma. But I don't know, rather than just, like, blindly arguing with someone, like, you're not going to argue yourself into a position of accuracy. Like, you actually have to go out and do the thing. If you also want to argue it, that you're right. And staring up at the night sky incredulously isn't quite that.
Or at animals.
For that dome.
That dome, right?
The masses.
The dome is looking
not,
at Mighty
not
Nice
even
tonight.
Really an appeal to the masses. The only reason it's an appeal to the masses is because most people do what they're told, they believe what they're told, and most people submit to authority.
Actually, I mean, he's not wrong there. Just
no.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it because I believe most people are stupid. It's just life's too short. Life's too short, though, right? Like, I could actually look into evolution, or I could, like, have my day job, right?
Right? Yeah. People
or
want to.
I could actually look into climate change. But, like, every time I do, like, I fall asleep. No lie. I talk to people and I'm like, explain this to me. They give me the rundown. I'm like, that makes sense. Then there's climate change deniers, and I'm like, make it make sense, and they can't. So I'm siding with the people who say that climate change is a thing, because, I also have eyes, and if nothing else, having the worst storm in 100 years every fucking year should be a red flag. And I can come to that conclusion without, by trusting people, because, like, I I have to read a bunch of stuff in my own field, and you would be amazed at how much shit changes every year in the field of psychology and employment law. So yeah,
Mm,
I trust the scientists. Scientists trust each other. Like when people
right.
are like, well, why do they believe there's this? It's like, well, the astrophysicist had a powwow, and this theory was the last man standing, and I know that they're as serious about their field as I am in mine. So I'm gonna trust that field, as long as what they're saying is making logical or sense the way I know it. But like Vandy and what do you call it? What were you doing? Like, I mean, it was a lot of stuff you were doing. Like, you're a physicist, but like a lot of stuff you're talking about was in the range of like astrophysics,
Yeah,
right?
cosmology. Yeah,
Right.
cosmology and astrophysics
Mm.
are distinct, and I'm not a cosmologist. I've never taken a class where I learned general relativity. Okay,
But you know enough about physics to where relativity, no, when you've like a broad overview of relativity, it's like, okay, this makes sense. Things would work in this way.
yeah, and I understand how approximations and approximate models and those sorts of things sort of are related to each other. Like, do I know the full detailed calculations of the Einstein field equations? No, but I do understand. But most of the time, you don't need to.
Right.
For the stuff I do, you like don't need to, like ever, because I've never needed to. But it's also I know some of the lingo.
Mm-hmm.
The one example, and I hope this doesn't open up a can of worms in chat, is what it means when you say that you are giving off radiation at a particular temperature. That has a meaning that I am specific about, and it is one that I understand how people have similar modified sort of impressions of it, but it, it I know what words to say to another physicist, and I know what words that physicist can say to me that communicates the concepts clearly and unambiguously. So if you're able to find, if you're saying, oh, like I've talked to other people and they agree with me, wonderful. Clearly, you and I are having a miscommunication here, and if you can give me what the person who speaks the same background knowledge and background vocabulary that I do says it, oftentimes I'll suddenly understand a detail about the argument that I was missing before because I thought you meant this and you meant that. And they happen to know this very, very, very pedantic, detailed way of saying it in a similar but slightly different word with a different suffix at the end that suddenly makes it clear to me. Oh, okay, you meant... Yeah, so,
Yeah.
it's a thing.
It's a
They're
thing.
logical fallacies. Just because most people believe something, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily the truth.
That's true. But just because people
Can't
believe that doesn't mean it's
dispute
true.
Say
And just
what?
because an authority figure tells you something, that doesn't mean it's the truth. That should be self-evident that those are logical fallacies. But in most people's minds, oh, you can't have an opinion about the stars. What, you're not an astrophysicist? But really, if you are an astrophysicist, all that means is that you...
I want to know where this is going. What does... Specifically, how is Hans Wormhat going to finish this sentence? Okay, because there are a lot of other ways that people start this sentence and then finish it in different quality. But Hans, this is going to be good. Okay,
He's probably going to say programmed.
Okay, I'm gonna back up 5 seconds and let him say it from the beginning.
But really, if you are an astrophysicist, all that means is that you agree to play the game and to only take ideas within a very specific framework, and that is laid out by the system. You can't.
Actually, less bad than I was expecting, because
kind of a system.
The connotation of what he just said is kind of bad, but the actual meaning of what he said is not totally wrong. Like, yeah, we all agree, like, whenever you talk with another human being in the English language and they seem to understand it, you proceed in the conversation with the assumption that they understand at some level the words that are coming out of your mouth until you, like, don't. It could be a coincidence. It could be a coincidence that they're just saying random mouth noises and they've had a horrific neurological condition and they're just coincidentally saying things that make sense to you. But probably you guys actually know what you're talking about.
I do want to welcome Blessed Be He to the chat.
Oh boy.
I love the Christians that come through. I don't want a monolith. I really do want a mix of people here. And you are welcome to stay. However, I'm going to have to push back on the proselytizing. And I know two of the mods at least have said that to you. And chat rules. You have to talk to people, not at people. And it's not because I don't want to hear the good word, but we're all adults here. Adults don't like being talked at. So if you have compelling evidence or, arguments for your beliefs, please feel free to espouse them. But again, in your own words, not Bible quotes. And also, we're not going to chastise or threaten people with hellfire. That's just rude. I wouldn't threaten you with physical violence. And I wouldn't allow anyone to threaten you with physical violence. So if you could return the favor to everyone else in chat, that would be, for one, sharing the love of Christ. And two, it would not piss me off. Moving on.
Become an astrophysicist unless you submit to the system and join a university, and they're not going to let you be in a university and say, oh, I believe in biblical cosmology, I believe that it's the firmament, and that I don't personally believe that the stars are hot balls of gas. Do you think that you're going to be able to make it through the university system having your own ideas like that? And you can't get a PhD unless you do research, and guess what, your research...
I do need to push back because I just finished saying that I would read things and I had my own opinions and I didn't get kicked out of college. God. People walked me through in a way that made sense. And, I came to the consensus of my own accord. And there have been a lot of people who have not done that. And you know what? When they were able to show something different, the field moved in that direction. And actually, Vandy, you were saying something about that last night too.
Yeah, the field does move in new directions. There are all sorts of things that come as a surprise to established science, and sometimes the consensus opinion changes really rapidly. In 1991. There's a phenomenon called Bose-Einstein condensation. This phenomenon refers to a macroscopic occupation of the quantum ground state, the single particle ground state of a system. And it was predicted, as the name suggests, by a physicist, an Indian physicist, Satchendra Nath Bose, and Albert Einstein. And it's beautiful and remarkable. The insight that Bose had was a very, very simple but elegant and amazing argument about how you count things and label them that you would think would lead you to the same conclusion, but totally doesn't. But it was predicted way back then. It was predicted in like 1928 or 1927, something like that. And it was first observed in 1995. And as late as 1991, the general consensus was the first place this would be experimentally observed was in condensed matter systems with excitons and stuff like that, like exciton, polariton, that sort of thing, condensates. And it turned out that the place that it was first observed was in ultra-cold, dilute atomic gases. And my advisor was the first person who was able to actually see it and measure it and show it. And that occurred in June 1995. And they had the measurements. They went to a conference. They spent all week at the conference talking to people and being like, "This is what we see. We see it in this situation. We're able to cool the gases like this way, and it makes sense." And all of this is completely in line with what we expect when you sit down and do the quantum mechanics with the information that we know. And he won the Nobel Prize in 2001. 1995 to 2001, that's a pretty short amount of time. Like, this was... It was immediately clear to people that this was, like, the real thing. And 4 years previously, not nobody, 5% of the physics community thought that this would be the system that you would first observe it in. But when you sit down and you say, okay, this is the Schrödinger equation, this is what it predicts in this situation, and this is what it predicts in this situation, and we see situation B as opposed to situation A, so that's pretty good evidence that you're seeing the effect you think you're seeing.
Right.
You can be wrong. You can always be wrong.
Right.
But at a certain point, if somebody says that the sky isn't blue, like, they could be right, but, like, I don't even know what it means for them to be right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
Comes through whoever your advisor is, so they're already a part of the system.
Yeah, I mean, and my advisor is a Nobel laureate, so he's super a part of the system. And my last name is Van de Graaff, so I'm, like, genetically a part of the system. I'm a Nepo baby. I'm a science Nepo baby, you guys. This is true fact.
I'm sorry, Ryan. Did you have anything to say about any of this gibberish?
No, not particularly.
System is built in a way to not foster original thought. You need to have your thoughts within the scope of the experts. And so one thing you'll notice is that it's a huge deal when the box gets changed. And I think of that as things like Einstein. Why are people like Einstein such a huge deal? Like,
oh, yeah, you could probably answer that. Why are people like Einstein such a huge deal?
I'm of the opinion that Einstein deserved 4 Nobel Prizes. He got 1. Einstein, I think, is underrated, which is, like, quite a thing for somebody to say, right? Einstein received the Nobel Prize for his explanation of the photoelectric effect, which is an explanation that sort of goes back to the Planck blackbody spectrum and the quantization of energy and photons. He also deserved a Nobel Prize, in my opinion, for his paper on Brownian motion. It put the nail in the coffin of atomic theory, being correct, rather. And he deserved, in my opinion, a Nobel Prize for special relativity, and in my opinion, he deserved a Nobel Prize for general relativity. And honestly, I think I'm very biased on this matter. I think he probably also deserved a Nobel Prize for identifying the subtlety that Bose pointed out in the statistical labeling of quantum states. So, Einstein, in my opinion...
I understand why he didn't get at least 2. I mean, was there...
Only one person has received 2 Nobel Prizes in physics.
Okay.
More than
And it
one.
was not Einstein. Who was
It
that
was not
person?
Einstein. That person, I kind of want to ask chat. Chat, put your answer in the thing if you think you know. I'm gonna say 5, 4,
Stephanie is saying
3,
Marie Curie.
2, 1. The one individual that I know of to win 2 Nobel Prizes in physics is John Bardeen.
Okay.
Marie Curie won a Nobel Prize in physics and a Nobel Prize in chemistry.
Ah, okay.
Yes, she did. And frankly, both of those could have been physics prizes. So,
I mean, back when she was doing science, like,
she was the Titan.
yeah, I mean, and when I read about women's contribution to science around the time that she was working, I mean,
Yeah, she was the Titan.
I'm shocked. There were so many women around that time whose advances were being taken by men, and
Yep.
they were lauded, and the
They
women,
could.
yeah,
Yes, I completely agree.
Happened
I
often.
yeah,
there was Meisner, Lisa Meisner, I think, was her name. She came up with the nuclear droplet model, which sort of modeled the nucleus of an atom in a way, and was directly, hugely influential in understanding the concept of nuclear fission. And Peter Higgs did get a Nobel Prize for his work. Yes, he received that Nobel Prize, Daniel, in 2012 or 13, I want to say, the year after they found the Higgs boson. But Marie Curie, she just did too much. Like, they couldn't not give it to her. And once they gave it to her once, I guess they were like, well, I guess we might as well give it to her twice. Because it's phenomenal, and she must have been just an absolute, yeah. I mean, she was probably a genius on par with like Einstein. But she did get 2 Nobel Prizes, and Einstein only got 1. So,
I mean, that beyond impressive, yeah. I was reading. I think the last woman I read about, was she the one that took? Well, like she, there was a woman I think that was taking pictures of, was it DNA?
yeah, Rosalind Franklin.
Yeah, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
know she was a team of 4, and I think
Watson and Crick. Yeah, she was the person who should have gotten the prize. A lot of people think, along with Watson and Crick.
right, yeah.
Who, at least one of them, I can't remember which one, maybe both, turned out to be, wow, oof, yeah, not great. They said some.
Another man riding on the
fucked up shit.
coattails of a woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, right. I know that you're really big on promoting women too. So.
Yeah, I just, because I know what it feels like to be silenced, so I can't imagine it for other people who are in just other positions of, marginalization. So if I'm angry, if I'm frustrated, which I am, then I know that they must be even just more so. So I just leave a fire lit under my ass at all times. I'm just ready to slice and dice the patriarchy at any moment. Let me at them.
Apparently, according to Stephanie, the only reason Franklin did not receive the Nobel Prize with Watson and Crick was because she had passed away before it was awarded. In which case, that does change, because that means it's possible that she would have. And you don't, like, they won it pretty quick, but it takes a little while, I think. I don't remember when they won it.
Like, why do people might be like, I don't get it. Like, is it because he looks dorky? It's like a nerdy. You see that that people like Einstein, it's like a pop culture meme type thing. Einstein reminds me of Andy Warhol for some reason. They're just this like pop figure. Why does that happen to people like Einstein? And well, in my opinion, Einstein was just a puppet. I think that Einstein actually was like mentally challenged, and I think that they thought that was funny, that they could prop him up as the smartest person ever.
The fuck? Mentally challenged? Excuse me?
I mean, autistic maybe, but
Right. But mentally challenged? Excuse you, sir. Excuse you.
Yeah, Hans doesn't believe in being PC.
Nor science, obviously, or he'd know about autism.
Or most
so.
animals, comets, outer space, just in general.
Vandy's over there breathing. Deep breaths. And the
Weasel
fact that
bait.
he's like making fun of his looks too. Like
I think Einstein curated that at least a little bit intentionally. Not so much that it was actually he deviated from what he normally did, but more that I think there was a certain point when he was like, you know what? I can just be I could be, very cool and reasonable and professional and suave and everything when I talk to reporters or stuff. Because Einstein really he was a superstar in physics in the 1910s. He became a superstar in physics at a level that is comparable only to people like. The only one I can think of, honestly, well, two, would be Stephen Hawking and before him, Richard Feynman. The other people that people think of, they think of people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Carl Sagan. They're science communicators. They're not renowned for specifically their contributions into the actual published literature and body of science. They did do that. They have legitimate background and everything. But what they're known for is being science communicators.
Right.
Einstein, Hawking, and Feynman were known as brilliant physicists. Hawking would have won the Nobel Prize in, it was either 2020 or 2021 when Roger Penrose did. He would have shared the prize, I'm pretty damn sure, with Roger Penrose, but he had passed away already.
Anyways, I think that people like that become a big deal because they change the sandbox that people are allowed to play in. And that's why it's a big deal. It allows a lot more people to come in and start to shape science. And right, that's not the way that truth works. There's one truth, and it's always been true since the beginning of time. And you can just see that that's not how science works. Science is always changing and always building on itself and always changing their mind, and it always is top down. People top
Science
down.
is always changing its mind.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, you should be stuck in the past all the time, like the Bible. I mean, not even just the Bible, like the holy book.
Like the Book of Eric.
right? Just always looking in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, and I say that kind of glibly, but we had Paleologos on a couple of weeks ago, and it was so he's evangelical, or what is he?
I mean, I think I would classify him as an evangelical. I haven't asked him that question particularly, but I don't think he would be. He's in the chat, I think, or at least he was recently. He's a young Earth creationist.
Yeah, young Earth creationist. And when I asked, it's well, the Bible has to be inerrant. And I'm like, well, I was a practicing Catholic, very devout, and we understood that the Bible was man-made and that people were, it was, my understanding was that people were being inspired by God. And it wasn't like God took the pages and here, let me write this down for you. It was people being led to write things, and they were shown things and wrote it from their perspective, and they did the best they could. And as we learn more, we would read more into what God was trying to tell them. So that was like the perspective that I had. And a lot of people will say for religions to be mobile, for them not to just completely fall out of favor, they have to have some leeway there. People have to be able to relate to them in any time. Um, so it's always interesting when I see people doing things like this, because I like you don't have to stick with this interpretation. You don't have to be, I don't know, like hold yourself back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you're on mute.
I find it incredibly easy to talk to Peter because he speaks because he's doing it through a lens, and I think he's got to come up against a hard sort of conflict of logic at some point. He understands science,
Yeah.
and like at a methodological level that is very, very well formed. With the one exception, and it's sort of an exception that he's very clear about. So it's not, he's not smuggling this in. He's
Right.
very clear about this. He does view the Bible, the scriptures. He does view them as authoritative statements of reality, and it would require a deconstruction of that sort of epistemological foundation, I think, to some extent, for some other things to follow. But he says, I don't know, to questions that, like if you ask Peter about the heat problem, Peter will say, there currently is no solution to the heat problem. That's obvious.
That's big.
Yeah, it is big. He's not, because, and Peter, if you ask him a question, he will answer it. And he will answer it doing the best he can to answer the question that you are asking and that you think you are asking. And if he's unclear about it, he will ask you for more details, like, what do you mean when you ask me that?
No,
and he's
and I like
also
that.
a Calvinist.
Calvinist, okay.
He's a Calvinist as well, which
Did he
comes
say
with
that?
a whole other thing, but
Yeah, we're not gonna get into Calvinists today. But that's good to, I guess at least adds to my Peter knowledge.
That's how things work, and through the media, through sensational pop icons like Einstein. So one thing that comes to mind is like a neutron.
when I think sensational pop icons, I think Kim Kardashian, not
Yeah.
Einstein. But okay.
I mean, I guess in a Stephen Hawking kind of way, but I don't. Did anyone ever call Hawking like a pop icon?
He's the closest thing that science had,
Right.
other than Einstein and Feynman and Sagan, I guess. But yeah, kind of weird.
Yeah.
Neutron star. It's complete mental masturbation. Has anybody been to a neutron star? Has anybody touched or actually interacted with a neutron star? So what is it?
Question. Neutron stars. Those are pulsars, right? Well, a pulsar is a neutron star, but not all neutron stars are pulsars.
I think so. I
mean, but I'm just saying, pulsars, like, really easy to detect.
They're pretty... Yeah, they're... We've known about them for a long time because they are a very identifiable signal that before we detected them, you wouldn't necessarily... Probably a few people predicted it, but I don't know if it was disseminated widely. That's how a lot of science goes, is people predict it, but then that knowledge is not known widely by the scientific community, and then somebody observes a phenomenon, and sometimes, most of the time they are looking for it, but sometimes they observe a phenomenon that they were not expecting, and then they go into the literature and they look for an explanation, and often they find one. Or they find one that is pretty close.
Pulsars are types of neutron stars that are rapidly rotating and emitting radio waves from their poles. If the sweep of emission beam passes Earth, we detect it. Right. We obviously have to be within the line of the... What do they call it? The lighthouse beam? The
spotlight, lighthouse, spotlight, both. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to be able to detect it. But it's really interesting that he brought that up. Like, if he had said, like, black hole, like, he would have been closer. But, like, and
even now, like, we have a picture of... We have two pictures of black holes now.
Kind of. We have a picture of the masses around them, which I've heard people argue, and I'm like, oh, come on.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I suppose that...
So if you wanted to make that distinction, which is semantic and pedantic and a little, not going to lie, a little assholey, I'd kind of relent. But a fucking neutron star, if they're detectable, we detect them.
Yeah. And, well, okay, so... Yeah, okay. I was going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but we're 5 minutes in, and I do that too much anyway.
Yeah. I told you, we're not even... There's just... he rambles, but everything is wrong. And when I was like, we're not going to make it through this video, I'm like,
It's fractally wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong on all length scales and in a self-similar way.
See light in the sky, and you're telling me that people can tell me like exactly what's going on. It honestly reminds me of like fake historical accounts.
You see a light in the sky,
and that's why.
Wait, is that what he's saying about neutron stars?
Yeah, he's saying that you see a light in the sky, and therefore you can tell me exactly what's going on in the system that produced that light.
My understanding of neutron stars is that they're like the white dwarf of I forget the name of the bigger star, and it's like the pulsating thing is like actually it like further dying. Like I don't know, don't.
Yeah, no,
I'm not a physicist, but
if only we had one.
No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, you're absolutely right. Neutron stars are almost exactly analogous to black holes.
Right.
Not black holes. White dwarfs. White dwarfs.
I heard that if there's like more gravity, they probably would have turned into a black hole.
Yeah, exactly. So a white dwarf, when you have a lot of gravity, you have so much mass that's pulling on everything that it's trying to squish it all together. But you have this thing called the Pauli exclusion principle, which means that two fermions, in the case of a white dwarf, this means two electrons, cannot be in the same quantum state, which means you start squishing them, and then at a certain point, you can't squish them anymore, sort of, because that would require the electrons to be in the same quantum state, and that's not allowed. It's mathematically not allowed by the laws of physics. It doesn't matter how hard you squish, but if you squish hard enough, you stop having the electrons refuse to be in the same quantum state, and the electron will get, like, smushed into the proton, and you get a neutron.
Right. Right.
Neutrons are still fermions. They still will not be in the same place at the same time, but they're nucleons, so you can make something as dense as you can an atomic nucleus. So a neutron star is a giant atomic nucleus in
This is
some
right up
sense.
your alley.
in some sense.
Right.
And if you squish it harder and harder and harder and harder than that, there's this really hard boundary. It won't get any denser until you sort of make all of those things smush into themselves, and at that density, you have a black hole.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, black hole. Insofar as we understand black holes, I'm cool with black holes, but the neutron stars, like, there's a lot of physics going into that, so it's hard for me to explain what they are. But we always know what they are when we see them. But, like, don't they emit, like, don't we see the radio waves? Like, isn't that how we detect them? It's not like he's saying, well, we see the light from them, but aren't they detected with radio waves?
we detect them. That's a good question. I don't know if we do detect them directly. It's possible that we do, but I'm not aware off the top of my head of any example of that. Yeah. So they're rotating. All things like this rotate because.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's what things do.
Yeah, it's what things do.
That's what I do.
Right. And then along the axis of rotation, very powerful rays of various types of radiation can come out and are sort of sent in that way. And when those things sweep across us,
Leo to the rescue.
we see exactly Leo. Yeah, Leo's completely correct. But you can, I think you can observe them, and what you can also do now.
Pulsars are the radio waves. Neutron stars can be observed. Okay, that's why I'm okay.
Yeah, pulsar just means a thing that delivers pulses.
Yeah.
It's a very. I mean, physicists, we're not very clever.
Yeah,
But-
it's not like what was Leo freaking out about? Was it Wait.
Zircon?
Yeah, he was like, there's a.
That wouldn't apply to anything.
Oh no, he was freaking out about a word. He was like, why did they do this word? Why couldn't it be a?
What's the word you were freaking out about, Leo?
It was something on. Like there's a.
Fermion?
No. I don't know. He'll let us know. But like
He will.
Yeah.
DKH is a pulsar.
Yeah, my only point with this is that scientists sometimes just like kind of go in left field where. No, I think he said there was it neutrons, protons, neutrons, and then you had quirks.
Yes.
Having a Q on.
Well, that's a good question, actually. Yes, it's possible. I don't know that there is experimental observational evidence for quark stars, but certainly.
No. I was just talking about the name. When you were talking about the names, like not being very imaginative, it reminded me of Leo's rant, where it's like went off on quirks for a good.
Yeah, well, Leo, he theoretically could be a physicist. Love you, Leo.
Love you, Leo.
You know how this thing, I like to talk about how it's an umbrella. It's not a rabbit hole. It's like a web. Everything's connected, and it encompasses all aspects of life. Because what this reminds me of is things like Jack the Ripper.
What? What?
I don't understand how we got here.
Right, like that was 0 to 100 real quick.
Okay, yeah, we need a poll.
Is
escalated
is Jack
very
the Ripper a
quickly
neutron star?
to Jack
I don't. Did I miss it?
Honestly,
that just came out of nowhere, just like Jack the Ripper did. Like,
if I ever discover a neutron star that's ripping massive bodies apart, I'm gonna absolutely name it Jack the Ripper, and I will strive to credit you for the name.
No, it's all Hans here. Holy shit.
Oh my god. What? Where did that come from?
That was wild.
They will
Yeah.
tell. What this reminds me of is things like Jack the Ripper.
Neutron stars
they
remind me
will
of Jack
tell
the
you
Ripper.
that they know like every little tiny detail about things like Jack the Ripper, and it's just impossible. How could they possibly know all these details about a crime way back when? And it's easy because they just make it up on the fly. They're just making it up. And it's the same thing with
Is that what they're doing?
how could they
I don't. What do you mean all this evidence? Like the evidence they collected at the time the crime was going on?
Right.
Are has there been
They
new
now
evidence
likely have
recently?
more. Right. They likely might even are able now with new technology to put. Maybe there's DNA evidence somewhere. I don't even.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
haven't
I
looked
don't
at
know
it,
if there
but
is.
I mean, you
I
have to have
don't
something
know,
to
but
match it to, though. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, this is a guy who thinks anacondas and koalas are fake. He thinks that they don't exist. He doesn't think that gorillas are real animals. He thinks that they're people in suits.
Okay, see that's no. See that's harmful to the earth. I don't like that ish.
Oh no, this
That
is
pisses me
Prime
off.
Hans. Like
Yeah.
it's what he's. That's what he got started on, and I don't think we did this earlier, but like he's only got 8,000 followers, I think, or something like that.
Wait,
So
excuse me? He
like
has 8,000 followers? What?
that is so low.
Lord.
Like
Jeez.
8,000 almost seems attainable for me, but like we see these channels with like hundreds of thousands of viewers all the time.
I'm starting to think I'm just
Yeah,
I put too
yeah,
much
you're just
thought
not
into my stuff. Yeah, I really should just start spouting shit,
right.
regardless if I can back it up with evidence or not. I think
No,
I
yeah,
think that's my
just
problem.
koalas and fake.
Right, gorillas in suits.
5,000 subs overnight,
Yeah.
apparently.
So I liked the video.
Why?
I'm sorry. Because it was... I was hoping you guys would have, like, a big reaction, and then you didn't notice until I said it. So now I have to...
No,
unlike
I
I
it.
wasn't looking. Sorry, I was not looking. Apologies.
How could
Yeah,
you not pay
remove that
attention to me
immediately.
only all the time, constantly, forever? I'm clearly the most important entity in the entire
Hello,
universe.
I was looking at your face.
That's fair.
Not the-
That's
not
fair.
the like
Yeah.
button. So
That's fair. Yeah, my beautiful face is captivating. Ryan is a fantastic guest. We should have Ryan on every week.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure
possibly
she's
know
got
all
nothing
of
better
these
to
crazy
do.
little details about a light
I mean, clearly you and I don't.
in the sky? And it's
Yeah, I don't
because
think we're
they
not
made it up.
allowed to stream at this point. So
Yeah, no, right?
That's how they can tell you. Oh, if you grab a spoonful of neutron star matter and bring it to Earth, it'll go through the crust all the way. What? Do you just see how ludicrous that is, and how that's not science?
I mean, he's not wrong. It is ludicrous and not science.
Yeah. The point... What they're saying is that a volume of about a tablespoon would have such high density that the mass in that volume would be equivalent to the example that you always hear is a city, which is like a weird thing. You don't normally think of a city as being a unit of mass, but like I guess it is if you just draw a giant circle around New York and you're just like, we're just going to take all these people and go squish! Which might be valid.
I'd need to know your definition of valid. Let's see.
Well,
what
if it
else
was
he's
just
got.
if it was just Queens and you did it in the 70s and 80s, that would take care of the Trump problem.
Okay, so basically enough rambling, but that's the main point.
Was it enough rambling, Hans?
You're not allowed to even be an expert unless you're playing the game. You're agreeing to go along with the narrative. And it is very, very rare that they'll let people come by and have new thoughts. And
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, okay, so we're talking
It
about
is
science,
rare.
right?
Why is that bad?
Right, right.
It-
Like we have facts that support, our understanding of reality. So if you think you have facts that don't support our understanding of reality, it should be rare. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, and I would say that the reason that it is because the models that we have, if you come along with a model that explains an equal amount of the data, not more, not less, an equal amount, and it's similarly parsimonious, probably people aren't going to pay that much attention. That's a fact. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it shouldn't be a fact, but it is a fact.
Okay.
That doesn't really happen, though. When you come along, your model generally explains less information, in which case it's an inferior model, or it explains all of the present information and then like 5 extra things, which have been really confusing to everybody, in which case you're like, oh, hey, this model explains that in a quantitative, falsifiable way.
Right.
And we know that there are problems in our understanding of the universe.
Yeah.
There are absolutely problems in our understanding of the standard model, of things as straightforward as the radius of a proton. There's huge tension in proton radius measurements because muonic measurements do not agree with electron measurements, which could mean a lot of things we're not sure yet. There's tension in the evaluation of the Hubble constant. There's all sorts of tensions. Clearly we have work to do.
Yeah.
But so did Newton. And people still used his work as progress, because it was.
But I mean, the thing about science is that they can actually tell you where the holes are and what we need.
Exactly.
What we need to do to like this is what we're trying to do, and this is what's
transparent about
failed. It's not just like, well, nuh-uh. What do you mean nuh-uh? Like what about this is wrong? I don't like it. Which is what you normally get from outside science deniers, right? And I like this about what Scott is saying, and it's that kind of apropos. It's like, it's not just because Hans is saying, science isn't going to I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's just like, it isn't just going to let you come in with new thoughts.
It will. It'll let you come in with new thoughts. They just won't convince people until you convince them.
No, you need new evidence, and then you can tell us your thoughts after you come with the evidence. You kind of need to lead with that, right?
Yeah. You need. Yes, you need new evidence. I would say that a new explanatory model that explains existing data in a way that nobody thought of before, that is, in your language, that is new evidence. You could nitpick that and be like, well, the data has been there all the time. But guess what? Science is about a quest for explanations.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And if there's always a limit, you can always go. And I really do believe this. You can always go down the route of a 5-year-old asking, but why? And in less than 10 sentences, you're going to hit an epistemological wall if somebody's answering you honestly.
Right.
It's kind of a fact. Most people have an intuitive understanding of the sort of transition to that state. And so when you're like, it's not just like a brute fact, it's a brute fact in this context. And when you add context to a brute fact, it stops being a brute fact. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a philosopher. Leo's probably in chat being like, Vandy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he get any Leonard Susskind's autograph? Sorry.
Maybe I'm putting too much nuance on what you just said, but I'm not going to get pedantic.
Never a problem.
Yeah, we'll see what other nonsense Hans has for us.
The new thoughts are not, it's not the truth. They would never let somebody come in and say, oh, the Bible's true, biblical cosmology is true, and please allow me to have access to your telescopes and to all the same instruments. And
why not?
That would never be.
So there's a sense in which he is right, and a more important sense, in my opinion, in which he is wrong. It is true that they are not going to let Hans Wormhat come in by saying, I think the Bible is true. They are not going to let Hans Wormhat have 12 hours of time where he gets to point the James Webb Space Telescope wherever he wants. They're not going to let him do that. Why? Because thousands of physicists across the planet, thousands of astrophysicists, thousands of astronomers, thousands of chemists, thousands of astrogeologists, thousands of all sorts of people are saying, listen, we want to be able to get the James Webb Space Telescope for this amount of time to point at this spot in the sky because we want to try and detect this one thing that we can analyze. They're not going to let Hans Wormhat do that.
Right.
And thank God. The man thinks anacondas are fake. But they are going to let people do it who have established a good faith plausibility that they might see something worthwhile. Or
credibility.
Yeah. The Hubble Deep Field is a good example of this, I think. The Hubble Deep Field, what they did was, once they got the Hubble telescope up into space, and then they fixed it because they made the mirror the wrong shape, and they had to fix it. Nightmare. After that, the Hubble Space Telescope started taking, as we all know, the most beautiful, profound, amazing, existentially soul-wrenching photos that we've ever seen of deep space. And one of the things that they did was they did the Hubble Deep Field observation. What they did with the Hubble Deep Field is they pointed the Hubble Space Telescope at a point in the sky that was as dark as black as they could find. There wasn't a single star, there wasn't a single galaxy, there wasn't anything that they could see in that little patch of the sky along the line of sight. And then they just looked at it and collected 11 days of data. They just let photons hit the detector and they recorded each individual photon for 11 days. They did a picture with your phone with an exposure time of 11 days. That's a long exposure time. And when they processed the data, they saw a truly stunning, emotionally captivating menagerie of constellations, of galaxies, of stars, of gravitationally lensed galaxies that were so far away that you had to have the gravity act as a magnifying glass to send it at you. And they didn't, a lot of people, the people who asked for the time and applied for it and filled out the application were please let us have this time, they thought that you would see something, but a lot of people didn't. Those people were wrong.
Allowed. You would never be allowed to do that. They really do not allow people to have other opinions and then have access to the things that, so it's a big black box, and that's not science. science is reproducible. Nobody can corroborate that a thing like a neutron star exists. But good.
That seems wrong.
I don't. Well, what? Yeah, it's very wrong. Unless you accept what he means by that, which he hasn't clarified. So I don't know what to do. I don't know how to steelman his position because his position hasn't provided enough context for it.
I think he means I have never touched a neutron star or a koala, therefore neither exist.
I have touched a koala. I have an adorable picture. I have an adorable picture of 13 or 14-year-old me holding a koala.
Aww.
I gotta send it to you. We can put it in like one of the thumbnails or something. I look dramatically.
Oh, you've got to.
I'll
put that in a, yeah, send that to me. I could put it in a community post. Bree, I know, would love it.
Yeah.
And certainly so would Dr. Dino. Dick, tonight we are debunking neutron stars?
Oh, we're debunking all of the stuff.
Flat Earth.
We are
flat Earth as well.
The existence. Yeah, Hans is a flat earther, so we're debunking round Earth or a globe Earth, whatever. We're all globe heads, I'm sure.
Good luck getting a degree in astrophysics saying that you're not certain that neutron stars are a real thing.
You could probably get a degree in astrophysics saying that. It wouldn't necessarily be the greatest for your career. I'm going to acknowledge that there is. I'm not going to pretend that people who come out with completely wackadoodle ideas are not going to be considered a little bit wackadoodle. But like you can have wackadoodle ideas in like a certain thing. Like I'm probably way more likely than most physicists that I know of to say that I'm not convinced the speed of light is the limit of information content transport. I'm not convinced it's not, but like, you know, I wouldn't die on that hill. I would die on the hill that you've proven it's wrong. Because I know what that takes, and Hans Wormhat doesn't have it.
Hi, DeFreak.
That's the game.
Great to see you too. You and Blessed Be He would probably get along well together.
Fair.
Agree to play the game, and so there are a lot of people out there that they just take that as what they have to do, and so I often think of the way that Seinfeld or other people will say, oh, it's more fun to just go along with it and pretend. For them, it's
pretend. Go along with it or pretend.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
so again, as a physicist,
why is he using Seinfeld and science in the same sentence? I'm sorry. What the?
No, I mean
oh my God, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How is that relevant whatsoever? Okay.
Yeah. It's like Seinfeld science. You should just be able to look in the sky.
Yeah.
But Doc, do you feel like you're going along with big science?
Somebody pushing you? Are you being bullied? Tell us the truth.
No. In those contexts, no.
Would you know though? Are you sure?
Yeah, I would know.
I'm brainwashed.
Would you tell us that you're brainwashed?
Look, would I tell you that I'm brainwashed? Like almost tautologically, no. I might tell you if I felt I was if people were trying to brainwash me. Very different question, related, but very different. And it is the case that there are, I had a talk with my PI the other month about if we did a measurement and we measured, for example, let us say that we measured a violation of the equivalence principle in our apparatus, and we measured that violation at a level that is inconsistent with what previous people have measured it at. Mm-hmm. Would we, after going through a double-blinded analysis and coming to that conclusion, would we publish it? And the answer depends on how you think, how likely you think it is that if you said yes, mm-hmm. and you're right, you win a Nobel Prize. If you say no, or if you say yes and you're wrong, mm-hmm. and it turns out that you were wrong because despite the months and months and months of work that you put into it, you made a mistake that once people realized it, the example that I have of this is there was a group of researchers that published a paper in around 2010 or so. They published a paper that said, listen, according to our measurements, according to our data analysis, according to everything that we did, as best as we could, mm-hmm. we measured this signal moving faster than light.
Okay.
And they published it. Okay. And they were wrong. Mm-hmm. And they were wrong specifically. We know exactly where they were wrong. They were wrong because of the connector, a specific connector. You can point and you could go into the lab and say, that thing right there, that particular fiber optic cable was not screwed in hard enough, and therefore it was a few hundred micrometers away from the thing, and that caused a slight excess of a delay that they didn't find, and they published it, and they all lost their jobs. It's a very tough problem. Should they have lost their jobs? I'm going to say categorically, absolutely no.
Yeah, I was thinking
that was
too.
Bullshit. It was bullshit. They did the best that they could. And for anybody in the audience that thinks that I'm always saying that scientists is right and that the scientific establishment doesn't have any biases, I'm elucidating in as much detail as I know the most unfair time that this has been applied. They all lost their jobs. They don't work in physics anymore because they came out with this and the entire scientific community was like, that's almost certainly wrong. And they knew that. They knew that they were probably wrong. They probably were like, oh my God, we're going to lose, we're destroying our careers here. And
real quick, I there's like a seance or something going on in the chat, and I have to say I do not approve. Stop it now.
You didn't ask me to join and there's a seance? Like, that's really just kind of rude if you ask me.
Yeah.
Please don't join them. Again, in psychology, I actually disagreed with Jordan Peterson's, I don't know, and that was Canadian. So, I mean,
very polite.
I think it would have, I don't think it would have happened in America or the United States, whatever. But yeah, I think that if you're going to do something like that, it needs to be like egregious. I approve of Rudy Giuliani being disbarred, but
Yes.
um,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
because like he, like in his field, did something that he knew he should not have. Um, Scientists publishing wrong results happens
Yeah.
weekly at best. Like,
Very, to be fair though, what they were saying is that information, according to them, traveled faster than light. If you're gonna say that, you best bring receipts.
yeah,
And they brought receipts, and it turns out that they read the receipts slightly wrong. It's, man, I really hope I'm not destroying my own career here. But there's a reason that like my advisors in grad school, not on my experiment because my experiment wasn't the same type of precision measurement, but in the experiment where they're measuring the electron electric dipole moment, they do a double-blinded analysis. And they what they do is they have all of the data and they analyze all of the data, and then they have a number that nobody knows. Nobody knows the value of this number. It's kept in a locked, encrypted like file, and they add that number to all of their results when they analyze it, so that when it comes out, they can see, okay, are my measurements being consistent? Because that, I mean, you just got to do that to like figure out and like make your apparatus behave properly. But they so like. When they did all the analysis, their analysis was giving them a value of like 5.7.
okay.
And if the actual value is 5.7, my advisor wins another Nobel Prize. But probably the value that you're adding is actually 1.3 or 0.3, and that's within error bars, and so your real value is 0.3 instead of 5.7. And they spend months and months going over every single detail and being like, okay, listen, we are as sure as we can possibly be at this point in time that we have thought about every thing that could confound us. But if they open it up and they suddenly say, oh, according to this, we not only discovered an effect that is statistically significant and away from zero, which would be Nobel Prize worthy, but that effect is in contradiction to these two other experiments that came out in the last year and a half. It is factually true that it is more likely that you made a mistake. And it's very hard. But those motivations apply to individuals. And as the technology gets better, eventually somebody is going to be confident enough that they say, no, everybody else before me that published their result, they're all wrong.
Okay.
And I am going to publish what I think is the correct result. This very famously happened in the speed of light. The speed of light hovered around a certain number for like a while, like a couple decades. And everybody that published a paper about it had a certain value. And then somebody was like, wait a minute, I did this experiment. I did it with technology better than almost everybody else here. Those experiments, they just weren't using good enough equipment. They just weren't using a good enough analysis. I'm pretty sure I'm right. I'm pretty sure the speed of light really is 5% higher than they all think it is, even though that's way out of error bars.
Mm-hmm.
And they published that. And you know what happened? All of the other papers after that, suddenly they were like, oh, whew, thank God. This is not a thing that is good about the scientific community. What I am describing right now is a flaw.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a flaw because we're humans.
Right.
We're doing the best we can.
We're doing better than we were.
Yes. Yes.
Ryan, I'm going to need you to jump in with some banter. I think I have to unmod 6 people and ban 45.
Oh, boy.
So I'm going to be a little busy.
Everybody out the door. Everybody's gone. The party. You don't have to go home.
I can dance. Ryan, do you want to dance? We can dance, both of us.
No, nobody
Dance
wants
off.
that. Nobody. Wait, no. Just hit the play button. God damn it.
To go along and pretend and to make up their stupid things about neutron star this, taking a spoonful of a neutron star. Spoon is a big
Is anybody
symbol.
clipping this?
They're like spoon feeding you like a baby. And
Please do.
so they enjoy playing along with that, and then they get, I'm sure they have their own theories beyond that, but they have to put up this facade of, oh, spaceballs, but they really do have access to the best telescopes, and I'm sure that some of them know a lot more about what the heavens really are than I do. But
Oh, so yeah, any of those papers that you're talking about, did any of them have evidence of the heavens?
It depends on your definition of the heavens. But no.
Any of the 7 and the
divinity
dome above the...
Is there any evidence of realms of divinity? No, there's not.
No, well, above the dome, there's like 7 heavens.
Oh, well, okay.
We have religious texts that say this. The Bible itself talks about the 3rd heaven. So, checkmate, atheist.
Checkmate. Proven.
I have no response. I have been flummoxed.
And that's how it works, folks.
just-
You fell for it.
gatekeepers, and for them,
Ryan, so you're XJW, right?
Yes.
So, is there a specific, like, physical or physical adjacent, like, model of the heavens, I suppose? Like, do they exist at locations?
Oh, like what do the Jehovah's Witnesses believe?
Yeah,
or what is
yeah.
in the Bible?
What do the Jehovah's Witnesses believe?
The Jehovah's Witnesses, as far as I can tell, well, they're like, I think they're creationists, obviously, but they believe that the Earth is a circle,
And that it's old.
Not
They're
a
old Earth. They're old Earth creationists, is my understanding, according to watching The Truth Hurts.
I think that there's probably a range, just because I think that they're it's changed. Their dialogue about it has changed, so that you might have some with questionable ideas. But yes, now they're kind of taking this stance of, oh, well, in between each day, that could be millions of years. So that's how they play it off.
So when you
Yeah.
say, well, yeah, and the chat's asking, circle or spheres?
Circle. Sorry, did I say sphere?
You said no. You said
No,
circle.
you said circle. It's a valid question, though, because
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
a circle embedded into two-dimensional space is a one sphere. It's a sphere in a one-dimensional space.
Right.
Sort of.
And I guess that's what I was like. They don't
That might not
believe
be.
in a flat Earth, though. Clearly, well,
No, not in a
none of
flat
the
Earth.
ones
They don't believe in a young Earth either, but they do
Right.
believe that
So I don't
death did not
understand-
exist before the fall.
Is that true?
It probably depends who you ask.
Yeah. They basically thought that humans were supposed to live forever, and the only reason they didn't is because they ate of the fruit, and that was the sin.
I really don't understand that stance. There was a tree of life that they were
Right?
not allowed to eat from.
Because it's all an
Afterwards.
allegory.
Afterwards.
It's all an allegory.
Oh, they
Everybody
do believe
takes
it's
it
an
too
allegory.
literal. They take it too literal.
But
No, I mean, I just no, I hear this a lot, especially with evangelicals. It's like, no, there would have been no death until the fall, and that introduced death. And I'm like, they got kicked out of the garden so they would not eat of the tree of life. I don't understand where this concept of there was no death came from.
I guess they just figured that they were supposed to live forever. They had access to eternity, so they would be able to live forever, God providing.
All right.
That's what the J-Dubs believe.
No. I'm not saying, I'm not questioning that they believe it. It's just I really want to
It's
understand
just
why. Like,
right. No,
again,
it's
as a Catholic, it just wasn't talked about. I don't remember anybody ever asking the question. I was like, Adam and Eve, they ate the fruit, they got kicked out of the garden, and nobody ever said that death was introduced at that time. Like it just, I think they were. I'm trying to think about it, but I think they were kicked out so they would die, so that they couldn't, because God said that you will surely die in this day. And so there's a huge argument about what a day is. But, since they went on to live for another like millennia, but
biblical time, whatever that is, biblical
well,
math
Adam was
time.
like 920 or something like that. So
Sure.
if you died in that day, a day would have to be at least a millennia. So I mean, there's a lot of conversation about what a day is, but I yeah, it was never brought to me like death was introduced at this time, or that we could have gone on living forever if we hadn't sinned. So like it's
Yeah,
always like
darn it.
really intriguing to me. Like if I find somebody who has this belief, like why? Because it actually says the opposite. I just want to know. But I'm sorry. Uh, Click the play button.
Part of having all that access is going along with it. They need to be good at going along with the joke. And I don't think that means that all of them, like I don't think that every person with a degree in astrophysics is Illuminati and they know that it's all BS, but a lot of them certainly do. And so I'll just end this part before I really get into the two laws thing. I'll end my ramble with, how much time do you spend outside looking up at the sky? I can tell you that once I removed all notions of outer space land from my mind, and I just spent a lot of time staring at the sky, the night sky, even the daytime sky, staring at that long enough. Go actually look. How often do you actually look at the blue of the sky?
Yeah, but don't
How often
stare at the sun.
yeah,
It's probably not a good thing.
don't do that. Bad idea. You'll hurt your eyes.
do you actually look at the moon and try to track the moon? And that's none of the type of stuff in school. They just teach you to regurgitate what an authority figure. That's not science. How much time
Does he really not know that
does your
like, people used to track the moon?
Yeah, I mean, aren't the Babylonians known for this?
Quite a few. Yeah, I mean, even
A lot. It's not
the
rare.
Chinese. Yeah, it's not. The Chinese, I know, were really good at it.
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
many
before-
different cultures
yeah,
where obviously
they were-
needed to track the time.
No, they were like and predicting it.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
Asia and Babylon, like they were predicting, like they knew when they would have lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, when Mercury and Jupiter would be here and there. Like they were really good at looking at the sky and knowing things. We've done the shit out of this, and now we're better at it. And you don't. I mean, you could recreate the wheel. I mean, I guess it's something you could do, and then figure out that we already know what the fuck we're doing. I guess it's one way to shut a person up, but it, it's just really funny to me.
Right?
Agreed.
Like, but you can only come to this if you just throw out all that pesky science shit.
Who needs it? Come on, stop.
Start at the beginning.
You aren't
Like
too
the
picky.
beginning of time. We were talking about at least 7,000 years ago. $7,000 years of that we know of tracking the movement of the planets, and start fresh in your own backyard.
Average.
But my
Wait, you're on mute.
I pressed unmute. That's so weird. Maya, planets can't fit in your backyard. What's wrong with you? How do you not know that?
Well, no, you can see them. They're in the dome in the sky.
Yeah,
Where the
but they're really
spotlight
far
sun
away.
is on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
Physics student, so just put yourself in, imagine that you're undergrad physics students. How much time do those physics students that love Rick and Morty, think outer space is amazing, how much time do they spend outside at night actually looking at the stars and thinking for themselves?
Hey, you used to be an undergrad physics student.
So the second half of his question is way more important than the first half. How much time do they spend outside at night looking at the stars?
Mm-hmm.
Depends. I didn't spend a whole lot. How much time do they spend thinking for themselves? A lot. Like when I go through a book and I don't understand how they got from this line to this line, I sit down, I get out my pen, I get out my paper, I get out occasionally, don't get your panties in a twist, I get out my whiteboard, and I work through it. I work through the math, I work through the physics, I work through the numerical approximations that you're making at which stage when, and what the impact of those are on your end conclusion. And I will think about it until I convince myself that it's right. But I don't do that for everything, because I ain't got time for that. There's way too much stuff. Like, I can do that. I can do that when it comes to a calculation about the evolution of a radiation and matter field that are interacting together. Okay? Because I understand all of the quantum mechanics behind that. I understand exactly what the various mathematical approximations mean and the regime of their validity. And I understand how to actually sit down and do the calculation carefully and properly. I don't understand that for everything because I'm not Leonardo da Vinci and nobody else is either.
I am definitely not.
Yeah. Hans is so precious.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ryan, how much time do you spend in your backyard staring at the sky? Day or night?
I do walk my dog 4 times a day at least, and I do like to look up at the sky at times and admire the beauty. So I mean, it's sometimes, I don't see anything in particular that like stands out to me as abnormal or anything like that. But a little bit of time.
Well, you're doing it wrong. You're not supposed to have a dog. You're supposed to have a pen and a paper, and you're supposed to be tracking
Stars.
Stars.
Is that what I should be doing?
I
Yeah,
mean,
paperback then.
they're pretty stagnant. I would think you should track the planets, or the moon, but whatever.
Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, you're not gonna derive Kepler's laws from the motions of the stars. You are going to derive them, as Kepler did, from the motions of the planets, if you have enough free time to take all of those Tycho Brahe took most of those measurements, and then Kepler sat down and just did data analysis for 2 decades or something. It took a while though.
Yeah. I mean, You're going to be alive for at least another 2 decades. What
Hopefully.
Do you have anything better to do?
I get paid for it. Kepler was just independently wealthy.
That helps. That helps.
It does help, yeah.
All right.
Be into that kind of stuff, but probably not thinking for themselves. They have so much baggage and things that they just take for granted. They look at a light in the sky and think of how much programming goes into your mind by the time you're 10 years old of what those lights in the sky are. And that's all baggage. That's not science. That's all something that you were told. Things that you saw on the TV. Cartoons. Mostly cartoons.
What? I didn't learn how the universe works from watching Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. Like,
Wait.
I did
How
learn a
else
lot
could
of
you
things from
possibly?
Sesame Street, though. Excuse me. I would
Fair.
just like to interject.
Fair, yeah.
not a cartoon, one, and intentionally
Muppets.
Muppets, puppet and cartoon, totally different things.
But it's PBS, right?
But Schoolhouse Rock and
Totally a cartoon.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love
And
that.
I mean, this guy has no idea what conjunction junction's function is. Yeah.
I need to go over those. Quite frankly, I think I need a little refresh.
No, they're great.
Refresher. They are.
I was like, when I was that age, it was after Schoolhouse Rock was like on TV, but it was totally when Schoolhouse Rock was on CD games that you could buy for kids.
Really?
Yeah, so my entire Schoolhouse Rock experience is pretty thorough. I remember and have committed to memory conjunction junction, what's your function, and also the difference between a bill and a law and a blah and a bow. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Right. I'm just a bill sitting here on Capitol Hill.
Exactly. Like all of those things, they made a game that they sold as, an educational game. Like the example I always compare it to is Math Blasters. Did you guys ever hear of Math Blasters?
It actually sounds familiar.
Sounds familiar, yeah, but I don't know that
I don't
actually.
So Math Blasters was a thing where you had like a little alien that had like a gun or something, and it was a platformer, but you had to pause and do math problems. And it was great. I mean, it was a little cringe, but it was the 90s. Everything was cringe.
That's what we had.
Yep.
Okay. So, law number 1 that scientists hate. Scientists hate the inverse square law. And they also hate atmospheric perspective, or I guess aerial perspective.
Okay. You know what? It's been 2 hours.
Yeah, this is flat Earth. This is full flat Earth. We just went full flat Earth. Whenever you're talking about perspective,
Is that what's going on?
yeah, no, he's going into the argument about perspective is this magical cure-all for and the Earth is flat. And once you start talking about perspective, it's real easy to tell when people don't know what the hell perspective is, because it's just like, bro.
Oh God, I had no idea where he was going with this, but I'm not. I don't sleep and breathe and play with the flurfers, so my mind just didn't go immediately there. I mean, I don't know. We're gonna have to find somebody to do a part 2 with us on this, because
faux show.
We're 10 minutes in, hitting the meat, but I really wanted to go through the opening of it because it was just so
wackadoodle.
Well, no,
he mentions JW in there too at one point. He just haphazardly just mentions JWs and some mathematical gematria stuff, which I thought was really interesting.
Well, we've had a few people pushing Doc to do more science, and the beginning of the first 9 or 10 minutes is really heavy with very common science denial bullshit. So I wanted to make sure that we went through there and addressed those points because it really is what we're trying to do. It's like it
Combat.
shows, debunk science deniers.
Right.
But I don't know. I hope you had fun. We loved
I
having
did.
you on, and I hope you gained a couple of subs. And
Yeah, thank you so much.
we'll have to
We
have you
have a
back next
lovely,
year.
lively little audience.
I love
We
them
love our
so
audience.
much.
Our audience is fantastic.
No,
Yes.
they're not our audience. They're our friends.
Yeah.
Most of the people here are streamers, and they will see us in their chats, and we go around. It's just a love fest, and we all support each other. But I have they get a little hype when they come over here.
I wonder who's encouraging them to do that, because I would never get all excited about our topics.
Not at all.
There might be some clips I have to show you. And I'm probably
clearly.
I'm probably not any better. Like last week, I called titty mobbing, and that was a fun 5 minutes.
The titty mob.
It's my titty mobs.
Nice.
Yeah, I think I call them titty mobsters. They're my ride or dies.
Who wouldn't love that?
Who doesn't love titties? And where the fuck is
Nitty.
Nitty?
Nitty
yeah.
doesn't love titties.
Nitty does not. Yeah,
He
it is
hates
known.
Nitty hates titties.
Nitty may have
That
been
just
at the forefront of the
Seems
titty mob
cruel that
thing.
his name rhymes with it. Like,
Yeah,
Right?
it's,
If you do such a
it,
thing.
it's also defamation. What I just said, straight up slander, because
Yeah, you
everybody
might get-
knows that
Like, sue you for
Nitty.
that. That was
Nitty-
harsh.
Yeah, because Nitty does in fact love titties. Nitty loves titties.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, he was leading the titty mob. I'm just saying. But, all right. We're going to close out. So I'm going to say, who are you, where are you, and what do you have coming up this week? Who are you is your name, where people come out, like all the socials. So I need to know, like, who are you is what is your name on all of the things. No. Who are you is your name, I'm sorry, and what you do, what you talk about. Where are you is your name on all the socials. I'm sorry. And then we need to know, what do you have? I'm sorry, this is my second glass of wine. Then I need to know what you have coming up this week or what you have planned in the near future, so people know why they should sub to you and what they can expect to find.
So I'm guessing you mean me because I'm I'm guessing I'm
No,
the
they
guest.
all know him.
I'm right, exactly. So I am Rion Cultastic here on YouTube. I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, and the content that I make is basically deconstruction, decolonizing your mind, educating people about the old gods of Canaan to give people a better understanding of where the biblical God Yahweh came from, because that religion did not come out of a vacuum. It was borrowed. It is complementing. It is contrasting. It is cultural exchange. So what we see of Yahweh, we probably can see of literally their neighbors. And I want to remove the demonization of the Canaanites and just have fun. Start asking questions, just like we were talking about tonight, asking questions with science. We can do the same thing with the rhetoric we've heard about the Bible. So that's the kind of content I make. And you can find me at Rion Cultastic. You can on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok under the name either Tax the Churches or A Sand Witch. I call myself a Canaanite witch. I just think it sounds cool. And you can also find me on Twitter getting very profane with people sometimes under Anat_Yahoo. If you can't find me, quite frankly, you can find me through my YouTube link. If you go to my YouTube, I think it's like up there and you can find all that stuff. So
Okay.
yeah, that's who I am. That's who I be.
All right. Doc, do you have anything coming up this week?
I don't. I probably won't have much coming up until the new year. I've got end of year sort of things that I gotta get wrapped up. and I'm really bad about time management and emotional regulation of executive function, so it's a thing.
Same. You're
Yeah.
preaching to my heart, man.
Yeah.
Man, ADHD be the struggle. I'm just saying.
Ooh. I procrastinated today for doing some of my Christmas shopping. I procrastinated by listening to a podcast about procrastination.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I'm
Nice.
great.
Oh, that is top tier.
Well done.
Top tier.
Tier one, yeah. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah.
Top tier. And so yeah, I think next Saturday, I am probably going to be simul streaming, but it'll be a Skeptic Haven thing. And then on Sunday, next Sunday, we have Purple, who will be here. She'll show out all of her things. So Ryan, I don't know if you know, but Purple every year does a 48-hour Christmas stream. It starts midnight whenever first place Christmas starts, and it goes until 11:59, whenever it ends, so that no matter where you are on Christmas, you can join our stream, and there'll be, you'll be among community.
That would be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to. You got to remind me. That would be
Yeah, I can
fabulous.
send you the links, or if you're interested in taking a slide. I'm not sure what she has open, but and you can do 1 hour, 2 hours. I'll be streaming at my normal time on Christmas Eve, but it'll be part of the Christmas theme. So I have a video ready, but depending on whatever happened in this prior stream, it may be a continuation of that, or it may be, you know, um, something else. Um, but yeah, and then on New Year's Eve, we are not having a stream. We'll come back in next year, January 7th, and you know,
Next year. Oh God,
I,
that
oh, I
just
know,
sounds weird.
I know. But so yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody coming back here. Make sure sub to Ryan, but also have a great week. I love you all, and yeah, just have a great week. I know it's a really hard time for a lot of people, but know that if you're here, you have community.
Absolutely.
What just happened? What did you do?